basic motivation was to address the Arctic Ocean in a multidisciplinary manner. And that is, strangely enough, very much missing in the literature. And I would like to communicate to the general public, the politicians and the scientists, that we have to work together to achieve a better understanding on the processes and the role of the Arctic Ocean. The specific value of that book is that it is not sectorial. It does not look at certain regions of the Arctic. It looks at the entire Arctic, and it does not focus upon certain aspects of science, which there are many books about. It wants to look at the Arctic in its complexity, multidisciplinary, and so the theoretical background for them is that we have a systemic approach. We would like to see the system as such. The book tries to address all possible aspects of challenges and problems and science fields or political fields in the Arctic Ocean. And it does so because I'm convinced, and many are convinced, that all those aspects have to be seen together in concert. Now, we have very much of our knowledge is weak in various fields, so every field has to continue to study and fill the gaps in knowledge. But at the same time, we have also to open our eyes to see how we can do this in context with the other areas. And we have not really started with that. The book is probably the first start to get the process going. And it's very much up to the reader to read between the chapters and between the lines, or what kind of projects or procedures we can have in the future. And we need the connection between the fields to come to what I call a wise knowledge-based ecosystem and resource management. Because only by looking at the various fields, the socioeconomic implications, maybe even the political ones, the various scientific ones, we can provide humanity with the tools and the base that they need to cope with the changes. There's only one globe, one big world, and the Arctic Ocean, as any other part, plays a role in that one world. And then the question is, how much impact has the Arctic Ocean then on the rest of the world? And the Arctic Ocean has a significant impact on the world and how the world is functioning. And that is because the climate change, the variability of the climate change is several times bigger than for the rest of the world. So there's nowhere that climate change has had so many consequences. And then the change in the Arctic has implications on the world. And for that I could mention climate variability, weather change, changes in productivity, changes in fisheries, sea level rise, all those things which have global implications, they are all impacted by the Arctic Ocean. So whither the Arctic Ocean, where to is the Arctic Ocean developing, is then the question, how much will the world be impacted by these changes? The basic changes in the Arctic oceans are pretty simple. The ice melts, the sea ice gets thinner or disappears, and the big Greenlandic ice cap is melting. So these are the major changes, and then they have implications for us. The melting of the Greenland ice cap results in gives rise to sea level rise. That produces 100 millions, a couple of 100 millions of refugees, climate refugees, which the world has to handle. When we have dry weather, wet weather, too warm, too cold, down to the Mediterranean, all that is produced by the open water space of the Arctic Ocean. If we see changes in fisheries, distribution of fish, and changes in biodiversity on the northern hemisphere, also that is very strongly impacted by the Arctic Ocean. So it is a remote area, few people living there, but it has an impact on everybody living in the northern hemisphere. Yeah, the socioeconomic challenges are, of course, because there is easier access to the Arctic. That means transportation. Basically, it means access to resources which a hungry world wants to have. That means mining, oil and gas, tourism, transportation, and connected to that, pollution. So the socioeconomic impact of the changing climate in the Arctic is imminent. Geopolitically, there are, of course, challenges there which are connected to very much to how you interpret the law of the sea, which regulates the borders and the way resources can be used. And there are challenges with transportation routes. There are challenges with how to define the borders in the Arctic Ocean, and there are international disputes there, but there are also national disputes. Every coastal Arctic state around the Arctic Ocean has disputes about mining, oil and gas, fisheries, etc. That is happening already, and the tension or the challenges to solve that are increasing. But one has also to add that the Arctic Ocean is a very peaceful ocean. So the rules how that should be done are on the table, and all the partners so far have followed the rules. The ice will never leave the Arctic. The Arctic will always be ice covered, but the ice is thinner, and the ice in the central Arctic Ocean might disappear in late summer. And that is inevitable and will take place sooner or later. I don't think that we are able to manage that transformation. The ice in the Arctic Ocean is gone, so to say, for a long time, because that is the consequences of what we have been doing in emitting to the atmosphere over the last 150 years. So we cannot put that back. We can slow down, but we cannot change that consequence. We have to face what we have been doing in previous times and live with that, and ask ourselves if it should continue like that, so that it has also consequences for other regions. All the indigenous populations which have use hunting, subsistence hunting as their way of life, they have been already impacted by by the changes. And in the future they will be more impacted by that. They have probably to change their way of life and they have to change their nutrition, which then has consequences on their culture and their attitude to nature. But there are also a lot of indigenous peoples which don't live by that, and they are as impacted as all the other ones. So 90% of the people in the Arctic are not indigenous, and they are subjected to the type of climate changes which we are talking about. But for those living by subsistence hunting, they are of course strongly impacted. Yes, that is a difficult question because it implies a certain view on sustainability. Any system has usually a balance point in which is sustainable. So the old Arctic was sustainable, and the new Arctic will be sustainable. The old Arctic is gone. The new Arctic, or the different types of Arctic which are developing, they will find their equilibrium points, and then those will be sustainable inside ranges. So sustainability is not connected to one state which is disappearing. Sustainability is a process which is part of every type of system which you would like to use. So you look for the ecosystem services of a system, and then you ask, how can I manage that in a sustainable manner inside ranges? We cannot say it's a problem that things have changed. They have changed, so we have to face how things are to do now, and then we have to handle in the best possible way how the things are. We cannot complain about something which was done by our activities 100 years ago. We cannot go into the future by looking back and complaining. We have to do whatever we do. And every fisherman in Northern Norway, everybody in Northern Canada or Greenland, they have to live the way it is and do the best out of that. And that's what they're doing. They're very good in adapting. So people adapt to the changes. So the challenges are there, but there are also the solutions.